Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our Let's Talk About series. My name is Jaleesa Dallas, Program Manager for our recognized student organizations at the University of Phoenix. And today we're having an honest conversation about stepping out of your comfort zone. I know for me, that has been a challenge, so I'm looking forward to this conversation with our panelists. And today we're answering your questions on this topic and sharing about becoming the best version of yourself, implementing a growth mindset, and pushing past procrastination. Be sure to share your questions in the comments and in the chat. Joining us today, we have Carla Hunter and Alice Rush, some of our University of Phoenix career advisors, and Chris Dennis, a University of Phoenix program manager. So let's get started. Carla, please tell us how we become
hmm
the best version of ourselves.
Hello, Phoenix family. We are so happy to be in the same space with you, fully present, fully alive, because every morning when we open our eyes and we awaken to a new day, it becomes our invitation to help others during that day, being fully present and in each moment in every conversation. This is actually a much needed discipline in our society. I love how I can hear my clients or hear my teammates and hear their perspectives. That gives me insight. Each of us have unique personalities. We are our own one of a kind, beautiful self. We have differing gifts and talents. And all the while, my team's gifts and talents bring me joy as they share a point of view I haven't considered. So we can live our lives each day in the beauty of giving and receiving in a healthy social connection that forms our teams, that forms our University of Phoenix family. And yet, in order for me to be the best version of Carla Hunter, I can't remain comfortable because when I'm comfortable, I'm not growing. So, in order to be the best version of me I can be, is to be in a posture of humility. It's to be in a posture of forgiveness, releasing negative energy inside of me, doing me harm. This is a particular invitation for me to forgive myself, extend myself grace. And then finally, when I'm being the best version of me, in the posture of accepting you as you are, with great respect and dignity for you, I open my heart to you with unconditional love, advocating for you to become the best version of you. And here it is, my reality and your reality is that we need each other. You need me and I need you to be our very best authentic selves. So I come to this conclusion that we were born to serve one another, and when we're not doing that, let's challenge our comfort zone, because think about it this way. If we have served or we have helped one person, just one, it's as though we've served or helped the world, Because if all of us, the million members of this University of Phoenix family, if all of us did that, it is though we really did help the world. So I'm your coach, and I'm challenging you to get out of your comfort zone. And I'm going to turn it back to our wonderful go-to, Jaleesa.
Awesome. Wow. Wow, 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 Carla. Thank you so much for your transparency and your candidness and sharing literally what humility, forgiveness, and heartedness looks like, especially in service to others. I think that's so great. And that does exemplify what it means to be the best version of ourselves. Because in service to others, that's where I believe we shine brightest. So I would love for
Absolutely.
Chris to continue our conversation on talking about how to implement a growth mindset. Chris?
Thank you so much. And Carla, that was so moving. I wasn't expecting to almost cry this morning. So thank you so
Mm,
much. So for me, this topic is so important. When I think about getting out of my comfort zone, it all starts with mindset for me. So just quick story. Rewind many, many decades ago. I was 18 years old. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grow up. I just actually figured that out. And I decided to go into the military. And I asked my dad, well, which branch should I join? And he had said, well, I hear the Marines are the hardest boot camp. His words, not mine. And if you could do that, you could do anything. And I did. Joined the Marine Corps, became a Marine. I went to college and joined all by myself. I moved across the country, went to grad school all by myself with that mantra in my head. If you can do that, you could do anything. So for me, it starts with mindset. And if you know anything about the work of maybe Dr. Carol Dweck, she talks about growth mindset and how mindset exists on a spectrum. So mindset has to do with your belief about your abilities. So if you have a fixed mindset, you think your abilities are pretty fixed, limited, stuck. You are done. As Popeye said, I am what I am, and that's all that I am. Or you might be on a growth mindset where you say, you know what? I am not there yet, but I can continue to evolve, change, grow. So let me ask you a question. If I asked you right now to break out a piece of paper and a pencil and draw a pony, what would you say? You might say, I'm not an artist. I don't know how to draw. And you wouldn't even take up the challenge. Or you might say, you know what? I'm not an artist yet. I may not be great at drawing ponies, but I'm going to give it a try. And I'm going to work hard. And even if it's an ugly looking pony, that's okay. I'm going to keep working. So it's the mindset of being able to shift from I am limited and stuck to I continue to grow and evolve. So here are 5 things that I use that I think what might benefit you. They certainly benefited me. Number 1, calling back to what Carla said earlier, the idea of being present, the idea of being mindful. So sitting down for 1 to 2 minutes and just observing what's happening in my body, what's happening in my mind, what's happening in my environment. And without trying to change it, without trying to stop things, just notice what's happening. And you might begin to perceive these limiting beliefs coming up. And you might catch them at the very beginning and be able to intentionally shift your thought from I'm not an artist to I'm not an artist yet. Number 2, fail at something. I am so good at failing. Fail at something on purpose. Here's a challenge. Go to the grocery store this weekend and haggle for the price of milk. I know it sounds kind of weird, but you're probably not going to get the discount. That's not the point. The point is to try something easy and safe that you can fail at and then celebrate the failure. We have such a fear of failure, and failure usually keeps us in a fixed mindset. Number 3, focus on trying to accept a new challenge. What could you do? Maybe it's taking on a new job, a new responsibility, learning a new language. Try something new to get yourself out of your comfort zone and know that it's not about perfection, it's about progress, which takes me to number 4. Focus on the progress, not the final product. I was raised to value grades, and grades are important, but the progress, the incremental progress that gets us there is what is and should be celebrated. And then lastly, I've used this word a few times, think about the power of yet. Next time you say to yourself or you hear somebody saying, I'm not a good runner, I'm not good at that, I don't know how to do this, throw the word yet onto the end of that sentence. I'm not good at math yet. I'm not comfortable with online education yet. I'm not a good husband yet. Being able to give me that opportunity to say, yeah, I am still growing, I am still evolving. So that's my time. I really appreciate being invited here, and I'll turn it back to my favorite Jaleesa. Jaleesa.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate your story as well, and how mindset really drives our ability to achieve. If we believe we can, we will. If we believe we can't, we won't. I think that was Roosevelt might have said that. um, so we're going to go to Alice, and she's going to give us some insight on pushing past procrastination, because we've so far got some really great things on being the best version of ourselves as well as a growth mindset. Please, Alice, give us some details.
Thank you so much, Jaleesa. And it's my great pleasure to be here as a career counselor advisor at the University of Phoenix. This is my life's work, and I would say this is the number one reason why most people sign up for career advising is how do I advance? How do I move forward? How do I get outside my comfort zone? How do I do a new career when I've never done that before? And it can be paralyzing. I think for a lot of people, we put off even making an appointment with a career advisor because it's outside our comfort zone. So I want to make this a very real session for you today. And what I'd like to do in just my 3 to 5 minutes is have you take out a piece of paper, and I'm not going to make you draw a pony, don't worry. But you're not even going to show this to anybody. But I want you to take out a piece of paper and a pencil, something to write with, or even in your phone in your notes section. But I want you to think about something very real that you've wanted to accomplish for a while, something that you've wanted to do. Maybe it's taking a fine art class, or maybe it is taking an opportunity to go to a trade association meeting, but you just never seem to get around to going to it. Just write down what it is that you have wanted to do, but you just can't move outside your comfort zone. So this is the process that all of us need to go through when we want to move outside our comfort zone. Two things. First thing, be very real with yourself. Write down your goal. What is it that you want? And then ask yourself continuously, why am I not doing it? Write that down after you've written down the goal. And then we want to unpeel that reason why not. Like my counterparts have said, it's very much, a lot of us have what I would call self-talk issues. We're not very kind to ourselves. We will say, I can't do this. Like Chris said, we're not an artist. I can't network. I'm not going to go to that meeting. It's going to be a waste of my time. I'd rather watch Game of Thrones. Or, there'll be a whole list of reasons why we procrastinate and put those things off. Now, some of them, when we examine that list, can actually help us in recognizing what we need to do and what we need to change. But others tend to be based in fear, and sometimes that is actually not our truth. So as you look at that list for yourself right now and think about why not? Why are you not doing what you really want to do? Now ask yourself, is it true? Is it based on fact that why I'm not doing this. So let's take the example of the trade association. Let's say I'm an accounting student. I don't have any accounting experience. I want to make that career change. I want to get that ROI out of my degree. And to do that, I know I need to get myself in front of hiring managers or people that I could potentially work with in accounting, could give me an internship possibly. I need to mix with these people, but I'm not going to the meeting. Just be, when in your list, you can be very honest. I'm just afraid. I'm afraid I'm going to be shamed. I don't know what to say in the networking meeting. I don't know how to introduce myself. I don't even know what an association is. It's too big for me to unpeel. Now, that is a great example of how actually your fear might be helping you. When you write it down and demystify the why, now we can see, oh, well, maybe I need to set up an appointment with a career advisor and figure out how to introduce myself. We call that our 30-second commercial or our 60-second commercial. And basically, the formula for that is who I am, what I've been doing, what I want to do, and how you can help me in 30 seconds or less. But it's important to craft that in an authentic, engaging way. If we haven't done this before, of course, naturally, we're going to be afraid and we're going to procrastinate and we're never going to go to that meeting, right? Because who wants to be shamed or, and I agree with Chris. I think it's great to get out there and fail, but also that can be demoralizing. And if we do go to one of those meetings and we feel embarrassed, that can prevent us from moving forward. So I do think it's important to be aware of why not, and ask ourselves, is it true? So the next step is, when you look at these fears, are they based on reality or are they based on myth? Is it true or not? And then think about, what information do I need so that I wouldn't have that fear anymore? I love this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. For those of you that know me, and I've been on these shows before, she's really my favorite person to quote when it comes to overcoming our fears and being the best that we can be. It explains why we procrastinate and put off really what's best for us. She says, in quote, "A great deal of fear is a result of just not knowing. We do not know what is involved in a new situation. We do not know whether we can deal with it. The sooner we learn what it entails, the sooner we can dissolve our fear." How awesome is that? So recognize that sometimes we need to ask other people information, people that have done it before. Maybe it's even like bungee jumping. It could be something, talk to somebody who's done it before to help to dissolve the fear. I just want to finish with one last story. So sometimes the fears can help protect us, but other times they can be based in what I say, giving all of our power away to the wet blankets. It only really takes one person to tell us we can't do something for us to stop dead in our tracks and not even persevere in research and gather the information. Am I right? I mean, I think we can all think back. I know I can, but this one story of a client is just a perfect example of this. I was working in a career center at Sun Microsystems, and he really wanted to. He was working in IT, and he came into the career center and he said, "Alice, I really want to be a math teacher. That's been my dream. But my dad says I won't make any money. I'll just be poor. And so I'm doing this work, but I really don't like it." Okay, well, isn't that's kind of a sad way to live, I think, because what we do for a living is very much our life. Um, we spend more time at work than we oftentimes do with our families. And so what we do is, it is important. So I asked him the question. I said, "Is your father a teacher?" And he said, "No." Um, well, how does he know that you won't make any money as a teacher? And his eyebrows went up. And he said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "Not to disrespect your father, because I'm sure he loves you and he wants to protect you and wants you to be prosperous. But how about just entertain this?" Again, going back to Eleanor Roosevelt's quote, "gathering more information." So we researched the salaries, and then I had him actually talk to teachers. And it turns out that, yeah, the salary that he was going to make as an incoming teacher was going to be less than he was making in IT. But when he talked to the teachers, he found out they supplement their income by coaching PE, which he was totally excited about. And teaching summer school would actually make him make more money than he was in IT. So the moral of this story is he ended up then going on in bliss and doing what he loved. But I thank God I was there to help him. And as Carla so aptly put, that we can be in service to each other and helping people out with that information, that missing link to help them achieve their goals. So I just want to close with having you ask yourself, what information do I need to move outside my comfort zone and face my fears? And when in doubt, make an appointment with a career advisor. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alice. I think that was a great way to sum up our conversation. When we're talking about being in service to others, as Carla mentioned, that reinforces our why in a sense and being the best version of ourselves, having a growth mindset. There was one thing I learned about failure, and I've heard it said first attempt in learning. So why not fail? Let's have at it. And then with Alice helping us to sum up our being realistic about the goals and then asking those questions why, and then getting the right information so that we can push past procrastination. So I hope you all in the chat have been giving us your questions or figuring that out. But I want to thank all of our panelists for your participation. And I want to open the Q&A and get some feedback from our audience. Well, we have something from Samuel. Thoughts on how I can get out of procrastination cycle. I tend to do my best work when the clock is ticking. Anyone can take this one.
Mm. I
Well,
think I would go ahead and start by noticing why you are procrastinating, and then starting with, where do I have the most energy when I'm not under a time frame? And then pay attention and grow in that area and find yourself becoming more productive in the times when you're not under pressure. Because at work, we have a responsibility to be our best selves at work. And I think our employer would say that looks like you're fully present at work, being your best self, and highly productive. It's all about productivity. And then finally, I have my own definition of fear. And fear to me is experiencing something and learning nothing. That is fear. That would be it for me, is failing is experiencing something and learning nothing.
Yeah, and I'd like to add on to that if I could. Um, One, I need to ask myself the question, is it okay to run up against a deadline? Does that give me energy? There are some people that do their best work under the gun. So if that gives you energy and it isn't creating stress or challenge for yourself or those that you work with, okay, great. If it's causing stress, or if you want to make a change, or if your boss wants you to make a change. A big part of my job here is being a project manager. So I create detailed project plans where I have goals and then weekly milestones to get me there. So for me, how I stop procrastinating is I set a goal and then I back up the date, so that the week before I know I have to do this, and the week before that I know I have to do this. And I have accountability buddies in the form of my team, to help me, and I help them stay on task, so that we can move forward. So that's something I would suggest.
I just have one other comment to add. For those of you that have ever taken the Myers-Briggs personality inventory, sometimes procrastination is kind of built into the fiber of our personality, that we do thrive on spontaneity. And that's where we get, like my colleagues here have said, that we get that creative energy, that burst of energy can come from when we procrastinate. And so, but I think if you want to get out of procrastinating, sometimes being more like trying to be more like the J on the Myers-Briggs, that's where they write everything down and they commit to themselves. They put it on their calendar and they say, I'm going to do this on this date. And social science research does show that we have a greater likelihood of completing something if we write it down. First of all, we know what it is. We write it down, we put it on our calendar, and we kind of make ourselves do it. But make sure whatever it is that you're procrastinating with isn't too big. We always say in our profession, break it down into baby steps, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So try to assign yourself these tasks that you're going to write down to achieve this big goal, but break it up into what's manageable time wise.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it pretty much sounds like everybody kind of summed it up to say it depends on what helps you to be the best version of yourself. Is it the pressure, or is it the pause where you have to situate things? So thank you so much, Samuel, for your question. We really do appreciate it. I think we might have another one. And yes, we do, from Julie. How can I make a growth mindset a habit, especially when I'm feeling stressed? It looks like this one might be for you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julie. Yeah, it's a challenge to make this a habit, because our default, when we come up across stress, is to move into a fixed mindset, to run away. Not all of us run toward the fire, as it were. So, what I would suggest, is noticing self-talk and then talking to yourself. You may not say this out loud. You might, but you might change that verbiage. I'm not good at running. I am going to start jogging today. Being able to notice when I'm putting myself into a negative place. I'm feeling really stressed out versus this situation is taxing, right? Because if I say I'm stressed out, well, then I am identifying my personhood as this emotion, and an emotion only lasts 60 seconds typically. It's us that stokes the fire. So for me, it's really about catching myself when I'm getting into this situation. My internet wasn't working this morning, and I had to drive to the campus today, and I was all stressed out right before this. But what did I do? I checked my router. I called some friends on Zoom to see if my video was working. I got in the car. I drove here. I sent a message to Jaleesa that I might be a little late. I just took the little steps that I needed to do, that were within my control, because the internet is not within my control, however much I would like it to be. So focusing on what my controllables are, would be a good recommendation.
Thank you so much, Julie. Awesome question. And thank you for giving us a current experience, Chris, and how you were able to resolve that issue and identifying what you could control in your sphere of influence. Thank you so much, Julie. Our next question comes from Angelica. How can I become part of this group? I completed my bachelor's and master's at University of Phoenix.
Hmm.
Aw,
Is she referring to the career advising team or just working at the university?
That's a good question.
Well,
So I think
I can tell you just real quick. I work in human resources, and we are hiring. We do. We are hiring a lot of folks. So I mean, definitely check out. I think it's
Mhm.
jobs.phoenix.edu if you're interested.
Yep.
And when you think
Go
about,
for
sorry,
she might think that we are a group also that meets regularly, like a lot of us are part of advisory groups or something like that. So this isn't a formal group, so to speak. The four of us here are just, we present every couple months on various topics. And so there's no real group to join. But if you have your degrees from the University of Phoenix, you have a lifetime membership, if you will, to sign up for career advising around your busy schedule. And that's you're Phoenix for life. So you're part of our group already. You can just go on to Phoenix Link and sign up for advising. And yeah, we'd love to work with you.
and pertaining to groups, if you're needing some folks to practice stepping outside of your comfort zone, you are more than welcome to join any of our recognized student organizations. We have organizations ranging from academic, honor, professional, and philanthropic organizations. So those might be some areas that you might want to participate in, that's
Mhm.
aligned with your college, for example. So awesome. Thank you so much, Angelica. Okay, we have a question from Selena. Imposter syndrome and negative self talk are big for me. How can I start small to get out of my own limiting beliefs? That is an awesome question. I'm even
Yeah.
eager to learn more about how you all will respond.
So I would respond by the first thing I would do is I would treat yourself, consider this an invitation. Treat yourself as you would treat your very best friend. Just think about that for a moment because your negative self talk has become an enemy to you from reaching your full potential. So you can fire that negative self talk and you can welcome the positive self talk by becoming your own best friend, uh, extending yourself grace and forming new neurons in your brain to change the way you talk. Because positive self talk, what happens is everything changes and shifts because positivity and optimism are crucial for reaching and becoming our best selves. And then it does take grit, determination, resilience, and confidence from within. When you're confident from there, it defeats the imposter because, in all actuality, you're trying to become the best version of you, and that's who you want to be.
I love
I,
that. Please go ahead, Alice.
well, actually, I was going to piggyback on something you said, Chris, earlier, and that is when you have these negative thoughts and you pay attention to how unkind we are to ourselves, like Carla was saying, just how we put ourselves down and say, I can't do this and I'm terrible at that, and just stop. That's what in therapy it's called thought stopping. Stop and replace it with the opposite. So when you say, I want to start small, it's a very helpful discipline to then say this the opposite of that. Or if let's say you say I'm terrible at networking, I don't know what I'm doing. You could say yet or up until now. is the one that I use up until now. And now I am going to be the best networker on the planet. So that is what you would tell your friend, right? You would,
Mhm.
that's what we call loving ourselves, is
Mhm.
the self-talk that we would say to people that we love. So being more
Mhm.
loving with ourselves and being aware of how mean we've been all along.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah.
those voices are from, our parents, or it goes pretty deep, but we have to stop
Mhm.
it. And that's really what it's all about. And it doesn't have to be a major endeavor. It's just being aware, stopping it, replacing it with the
Mhm.
opposite. And
Yeah.
you'll feel maybe like an imposter. Or I know that some of these, remember how affirmations were really big back in the 80s when we learned mindfulness, and Shakti
Mhm.
Gawain would have these tapes. Yes, back in the day, tapes. And we were to say these affirmations in front of the mirror. Sometimes that can just make us, yeah, not feel authentic. But the reality is, love is truth. When we are saying loving statements to ourselves, that is not an imposter statement. That's called being kind to yourself. We
It's a
all
good
need to do
Mhm.
more of that.
it's a good point. And what makes me feel really good in regards to imposter syndrome is that everyone has it.
Yeah.
All of us are just a bunch of grown-up kids trying to figure things out. And no one has it all figured out. And it's easy to say sometimes, but I've had imposter syndrome throughout my adult life, because of the way I was raised, like you were saying, things like that. But also moving industries, and moving departments, and disciplines, and not feeling as though I was worthy of being amongst these other individuals. It wasn't until I started talking to some people that inspired me where they opened up and said, actually, I feel the same way. I'm like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
And one thing about affirmations, I 100% agree with you. If I say, I am 6 foot tall, that's not true.
Right.
It's just not true. But
Mhm.
a partner practice to mindfulness is loving kindness practice. And
Yeah.
instead of using affirmations, I say things like, may I be happy? May I be safe?
Mhm.
Or to someone else, may you be happy? May you be safe? May you be peaceful? These aren't, I'm not affirming anything. I'm providing a wish for. And I say that to myself a lot. One thing I read in one book, which I haven't done to myself, but I should, is when you wake up in the morning, say I love you to
Mhm.
yourself. Now I know that's weird, but we say that to other people. I say good night or good morning or I love you to myself. It's kind of
Mhm.
weird and out there, but like Carla was saying, it's that neuroplasticity. It continues to change the makeup of our being by what we
Mhm.
rehearse in
Mhm.
our life.
Mm. Yeah.
Wow, I'm over here taking some really good notes, and that board that you might see behind me, full of affirmations. You can't read them because too far, but full of affirmations
Mhm.
and full of words of encouragement to myself to remind myself, even if I'm quote not exactly where I desire to be, I'm actively becoming. And so with
Mhm.
Carla talking about becoming the best version of ourselves, it takes us knowing in our mind, as Chris has talked about, and then believing in our heart so that we can actualize the things that we're wanting to accomplish by way of our words.
Jaleesa, you are not a human being. You're a human becoming, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, being made.
Mhm.
I love it.
Mhm.
I love it. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. Shanika is asking, how do I create the balance of professional and personal growth while in the workforce? Good question.
Mhm.
Well, I mean,
Mhm.
you don't mind me going and responding just a little bit, I've actually stopped using the word balance, but rather intentional. Because I think a lot of times it's about prioritization. What's most important in this
Hmm.
season or this time frame of your life? Because balance is kind of like you're giving an equal portion out to whatever it is that you're giving attention to. And in reality, sometimes it's
Hmm.
very difficult to try to do that if
Yeah.
at all realistic. So
And
being intentional is a good way.
hmm another way I do it is being looking at whatever role I'm in that moment. That's how I see it. So I see a blending of me. So at work, I'm in the role of career coach, and at home, I transition into mom and wife. So I'm fully present in those roles. So we can blend our roles in work and life to become the best version of who we are in those important roles.
Yeah.
Blend, blend,
And for me,
blending.
I don't even see a difference for
Right,
myself.
it's me.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I'm not like work Chris and home Chris. That's just me. And
Uh-huh.
in my opinion, because a part of my life here at the university was working with employees on their professional development, was it didn't matter to me if you were learning Excel or if you were learning Japanese. The fact is, you're growing and you're learning and you're creating that habit of development. And by creating the habit of development, the habit of growth, it's going to be very hard for you to not do that in the multitudes of facets of your
Mhm.
life,
Yeah,
right?
but
If I'm, yeah, please.
a lot of people keep their worker role on even when they transition home, and if they've had a really bad day, they don't walk in the door being the best version of themselves as wife or mom. They're still in their worker bad day role. And so I've been waiting for you to come home being your best self as my dad. Ooh, you're still venting.
Yeah, so that's the development skill of knowing how to find balance. It's a skill in and of itself.
It is. It's the transition. I don't want my family to have leftovers after work. I want them to have me fully present with them.
And that said, I
No
mean,
leftovers, people. No leftovers at home.
and that said, it's important to have ritual, right?
Mhm.
I used to have, well, I did today actually, the ritual of driving to work or driving home from work. And if you work from home, which I typically do, the ritual is walking from one room to another, and having some sort of a um, moment to be able to transition, even if it's
Mhm.
just taking a quick walk around the block. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
love
I
our
just would like
Phoenix
to add,
family.
sorry, just like to add that I think it really depends, this whole belief of balance. It really does depend on the kind of occupation that you're working in. And if you feel like you can't really be yourself and you're showing up to be in service to people, even if you're working in a lab, just having that mindset of being that authentic you when you go to work and you're in service to your fellow people that are working in a lab, or whatever it is that you're doing, you definitely want to not necessarily have a division, but to show up based on your values and work that way in the workforce. You don't have
Mhm.
to. I think I started working when I was 12, and I there was a time when I worked for Clinique Cosmetics, and I everyone was so perfect. Nobody had a scuff on their shoe, and everyone had to be, was so regimented. And sometimes we get so into the regimen that we forget that we are human beings and we are all the same. and that we're all here to
Mhm.
serve each other, really. And so I
Mhm.
think if we can get our mind around that, then the question of balance is
Mhm.
non-existent. There's really
Yeah.
no difference between how you treat the people that you're serving and
Mhm.
your most beloved, because
Mhm.
it's all the same, right?
Yeah. And
So
I
I
it,
think just one last thing is that if you are in a career where you're in the front lines and you have to deal with some pretty intense hardships of others that you're helping them work through, that sometimes you do need a little to create space for self-care between your work. So I used to be a college professor in human services, and I remember telling my students, you to counteract burnout, you have got to have a self-care practice. And I remember inviting one person into the who was an employer of social workers, and said that he liked to get in his car and listen to rap after a long day at work so that he could get out all of the negative stuff that was going on in people's lives and release it, because we can take it on, right?
Mhm.
And that goes into our physiology even,
Mhm.
and to release that. And so in terms of yeah, having a little more balance, then that would be important.
Mhm. I also would challenge all of us to become more fully present with each other. We're constantly distracted by our phones. We're constantly distracted by our own thoughts. And I think to be fully present, if we began to do that more, then our family would know we hear and see them. Our colleagues would know we hear and we see each other. And the moment we become distracted, we no longer actively listen. We we just get lost in our thoughts. So I really challenge us, because if we did this every time we helped a person, we would be like deeply grounded here, right? And we could feel the joy if we stopped and let it wash over us. Like, I helped somebody today, I served somebody today. And let that joy wash over you, even while you grieve in a different way for another loss. Just receive the joy in the moment.
Mhm.
It can change your life.
Awesome. Thank you so much, panelists and Shanika, for your question. I think professional personal growth definitely weave and flow in the workplace.
Mhm.
Geraldine has a question. What are some quick tips to step outside of your comfort zone or meet other people when you are at a social function?
Mm. I'll be brief, and I'll speak more to the first part of the question if that's okay. Um, I have learned that I say no a lot in my mind. Um, hey, honey, do you want to go and do this? No. Do you want to do that? No. Um, I say no a lot, and I wonder why. I remember saying no to going in the 90s to go hang out with some friends at a sushi bar, and sushi wasn't what it was now. No one knew about it. I didn't know. I had very limiting beliefs around it. I just said no. Why did I say no? I missed out on hanging out with my friends. So my wife and I have a pact where I say yes. It's kind of like if you've ever done improv, it's the idea of yes and. So I purposely, when someone asks me something, as long as it's, uh, aligned with my belief system, I say yes. I say yes, and I put myself out there. And it's hard. I said yes to skydiving. Luckily, that person didn't call me back to remind me, and I just didn't
Uh,
call her back. But I would
Woo!
have gone through with it, and it would have been nerve wracking. But I just want to say yes more. So
Mhm.
that's what I would suggest. It's very easy to
Mhm.
say out loud, very hard to actually practice.
Mhm. Powerful.
I'd just like to add real quick little tips for moving outside your comfort zone. And I think social anxiety plagues most of us. We don't know what to say to people that we don't know. Um, I've done a lot of teaching of workshops on this, and the most important thing is to notice things about people. Like women are really, in some ways, I think, and maybe it's because we notice about another woman's outfit, or we'll make comments about their physical, like I did with Jaleesa earlier. I liked her shirt. If we were at a conference, that would be a nice way to form, the beginning of a conversation. One time I was at a social function, and I noticed a woman was wearing a Mickey Mouse watch. And I said, "Oh, I love your watch. Have you been to Disneyland recently?" Oh, all of a sudden, she went to this very positive place where she was a child again, and infusing this energy exchange with me, remembering this great time she had at Disneyland. And it started off this friendship, and she ended up having a position for my husband. I mean, you just never know how these things can start. But my experience is, pay attention to people. Get your head out of your phone and
Mhm.
look and observe. Do you notice? I mean, especially if you go to someone's office for the first time in a face to face, maybe you want an informational interview. Just paying attention to the surroundings. What pictures do they
Mhm.
have on the wall? How can you connect with them? There are also lists of icebreakers. You could just kind of memorize a few and ask someone a kind of an icebreaker question before you go to some of these mixers. And that those are all ways to help us get outside of our head and connect.
Mhm.
I agree. I agree. I love stories. So I love to ask people, so
Mhm.
what's your story? And
Mhm.
people love
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
themselves. So everyone
That's
has
a
a
good
story to
one.
tell. So we
Mhm.
might as well ask. Um,
Mhm.
I want to thank our panelists for participating, and thank you, audience members, for tuning in.
Mhm.
If we didn't get
Thank
to
you.
any of your questions, we will do our best to get to your questions offline. But you can learn more about the University of Phoenix Career Services for Life Commitment at
Mhm.
phoenix.edu/careers. Also, if you are a student or an alumni aspiring to grow your network and build your leadership skills and community, be sure to check out our recognized student organization offerings during the under the student experience tab on phoenix.edu. I hope that you can take this information
Mm.
and rise outside of your comfort zone. Until
Yes.
next time, we look forward to seeing you at our next Let's Talk About in January. Have a great one.
Thank you.